You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. This week, my guest is two-time Major League Pickleball MVP, Lee Whitwell. In 2017, Lee's friend bribed her to play in her first pickleball tournament in exchange for a six-pack of beer. Since then, Lee has become one of the top-ranked pickleballers in the U.S. She was named Major League Pickleball's most valuable player in 2021 and 2022, and is one of the most recognizable personalities in pickleball, the fastest-growing sport in the United States. Lee and I recently sat down for a behind-the-scenes look at her journey to the top of the pickleball charts, and we explored how she's achieved such extraordinary success at something new in a relatively short period of time. In our conversation, Lee shared so many powerful ideas that you can apply to anything, personally and professionally. This episode is filled with actionable lessons on learning new skills, adapting on the fly, and unlocking the power of joy to fast-track your success in anything. Lee is a ton of fun, and I learned a lot from her. I can't wait for you to hear this episode. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to Lee Whitwell. Pickleball is all the rage right now, all over the United States and frankly around the world. I want to go back to 2017. A friend bribed you with a six-pack of Coors Light to play pickleball for the first time. Why did you need to be bribed? And what was that initial experience like for a former avid and competitive tennis player like you? What was that experience like?
Yeah, my friend Lisa had asked me to play in a tournament, and I'd said yes, thinking she was referring to tennis. And she goes, "It's not tennis." I'm like, "Well, what are you asking me to play?" She's like, "Pickleball." I'm like, "No, why would I play a sport my dead grandma could play?" And, we went back and forth, and she gave me all the reasons of how much fun it was going to be and it's going to change my life. And I'm like, I like my life. And her last-ditch effort was like, "I'll buy you a case of beer." And I'm like, you should have led with that. And that's all it took, really.
So you get the case of beer, you go and play in this tournament. Did it come naturally to you? How did things get going for you?
Definitely there was a natural introduction to the game because I come from tennis. So hand-eye coordination, using a racket versus a paddle, same thing. It's a little bit shorter. But understanding the soft part of the game and really understanding the nuances of the game took time. I came in thinking I could blast the ball through anybody. But then you tend to forget that the other people on the other side of the net do have hands and reaction and reflexes and can volley the ball back just as easily. So it was a learning curve.
You talk about that learning curve, Lee. What were some of the biggest challenges? What were some of the biggest adjustments you needed to make being a tennis player to pickleball, learning a new sport? Talk about that for a minute.
The biggest challenge, and I think a lot of tennis players face this coming into the sport, is ego, is putting your ego aside. We come from a sport that's extremely technical, that's taken years to perfect, and it's become your life. And everyone's a tennis purist. And then you come into pickleball, for all intents and purposes, looks really basic. You're like, "Oh, I can do this. I was a phenomenal tennis player," right? How hard can this be? And we get stuck on, "Oh, I'm making these silly mistakes," and it's so simple, versus embracing the differences of the game and really focusing and making those differences better and getting better at the part of the game that's not tennis. And, instead of comparing it to tennis is way harder and I'm way better at tennis than pickleball is, it's embracing pickleball for the sport that it is and really understanding, yes, there are a lot of similarities, but for as many similarities, there are just as many differences, and embracing that and owning that.
Lee, why is it, do you think people just look at pickleball and they say, "Oh, it must be easy. It must be simple"? Why do you think that is?
I think at the very beginning, we have a front row seat at this sport right now, and it's growing. This is a sport that essentially, for lack of a better word, started in death. And we're lowering that age of people coming into play. So when you went down to the parks, who was playing pickleball? 60s, 70s, 80-year-old players, just kind of batting the ball and just kind of hammering, nailing it, And it looked very, very simple. There's very little barrier to entry. I always say if your dominant hand works and you've got one working eye, you're good to go. You can make contact with the ball. But then as you evolve, starting pickleball is easy, mastering pickleball is hard. So the deeper you go down that rabbit hole, you realize, wow, this is not as easy as I thought it was.
I'm curious, did you have a moment where, even though you don't have a big ego and you're a very humble, kind of energetic, fun person, were there humbling moments for you when you were getting started where you said, wow, I thought that would have gone a little better. I thought that part of the game would have come easier to me. Did you have moments like that?
Absolutely. There were definitely very humbling moments. And a lot of the times is making sure that you don't take 75-year-old Betty or Albert with 2 knee braces for granted, because they'll shove that ball down your throat so fast because, you think that, oh, I'm younger, I'm faster. And no, they're way smarter. But no, they're definitely the moments that you think you're doing something and then you realize, okay, the court is smaller. There are no such things as passing shots. You've really got to work the point. You've got to do certain things, and you don't get away with things that you thought you could. And it's no fun when somebody who you deem is less athletic than you puts you in your place. That's a very harsh reality moment.
Are there things that you do to remind yourself that you need to focus on those details, that you can't make those assumptions, that somebody who looks less athletic than you is not going to be as effective as you? Like, are there things that you're doing to remind yourself, or are there things that you do when things maybe don't go your way to get yourself refocused that you do? Talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think most athletes, most elite athletes do this naturally, or they've worked at it and it's become natural to them. It's very much focusing on your process and focusing on the things you can control. And the only thing I can control is the ball on my side of the net. And if I focus the execution of that time and time again and focus on those processes and my decision making, then whatever happens on the other side of the net almost doesn't matter if I've done my job well. But if I hit a shot expecting you to do something and you do something different, then I've made an assumption that's not going to go very well for me, right? We all know what happens when you assume. And that's the one thing we cannot do in pickleball. And it's, if I've decided that because the way you're holding your paddle means you can't do X, and then you do it and catches me by surprise, then that's my fault. And that's me making an assumption on your ability to play the game versus me focusing on how I'm playing my game and my game plan.
You're focusing on your game and your game plan and your shot. I'm curious. I've talked to so many high-performing athletes and executives and entertainers who say you have to live in the moment. You have to be where your feet are. You have to control the things you can control, the task at hand. But in a sport like pickleball, are you thinking a few steps ahead? Are you thinking about this shot and then the next shot if somebody does that? Like, how do you live in the moment but also kind of understand and execute on some of that strategy maybe?
It's not easy, but I think most of the time it's you're in the moment and you're definitely playing 3 shots ahead, but you're very much trusting that you've done the work, that you've done everything you need to do. So hitting that cross-court dink is going to go the way it's supposed to go. So you can now set up, because you're expecting the ball to come back a certain way based on the shot you've hit. So you can do, I've done A, I'm doing A to do B to do C, right? And it's really focusing on those executions, because those patterns are already set. You know those patterns. You've worked those patterns, ad nauseum, so you can do them in your sleep. And now it's a matter of just getting out there, trusting it, and just doing it. And then obviously having a plan B if you decide to change the pattern on me.
Is there that much? Are the patterns that prevalent? I mean, are you able to, just through practice and putting in the reps, able to really understand exactly what's most likely going to happen based on your shot patterns? Is that the case?
100%, yes. And, and the more you play similar people, the same style of people, as humans, we're creatures of habit. So if you're used to hitting the ball one way, whatever ball I give you, you're going to hit it that same way. It's uncomfortable to change. So you bank on a lot of those things, right? And it's like, I call it sort of like cautious gambling. I'm betting on you hitting this shot because I've seen you hit it a million times, or I'm betting on the angle of this ball giving me this angle back. There's always exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, you can play within that.
What are you doing out there, Lee, when something happens that you weren't expecting? You mentioned cautious bets. You're placing cautious bets constantly. When something doesn't happen that you were expecting, how do you respond?
I laugh and I chastise myself. And no, it's very much a moment to pivot, right? If you do it once, I'm like, okay. You do it a second time, I'm like, okay, it's there. I need to now pivot and adjust. But I'm not going to adjust based on one shot that you've hit. I'm going to make sure that that's something that you have in your arsenal, and then you can do it again and then make that pivot and game change a little bit.
That's a really cool lesson. I mean, that I think all of us can take really to anything that we do. Lee, I mean, don't change and adapt just based upon one time or one instance, right? Like when somebody does something that you might not expect, it's there. You have to recognize it, but maybe you don't have to change your entire game plan, right? You get more information and be more methodical and thoughtful as you adjust. I think there's something in there that everybody can take away.
100%. I mean, you do that same shot 6 times and I haven't adjusted. That's on me. That's my intellectual ability to read what's happening is in the toilet. But once, okay, twice, okay, third time, now we're done. Now, if I don't have a game plan to accommodate that, then that's me not being super smart on the court.
That's interesting. I mean, it's a little bit of discipline, right? I mean, you have to have the discipline to not always chase every shiny object, every little thing that you see, because then you're just kind of veering all over the place and you're not sticking to your game plan. But when you have enough data and enough information and you've seen enough of that pattern, you have to be humble and you have to take a step back and say, okay, if I don't adjust, if I don't adapt, that's on me now. That's a really cool thought. Lee, where I want to go next, you grew up playing tennis, became a Division II national champion, went on to coach tennis as well. Whenever people go through kind of different transformations and changes in their lives, and they go from one sport to another or one discipline to another, I think sometimes you have to unlearn certain skills, right? Like there's things that you've learned that have become so rooted in your habits and your processes, and then you're doing something that maybe is similar but different. You have to unlearn things. I call it like unlearning. You have to kind of unwind assumptions and expectations and skills. Were there examples of things that maybe on the technical side of your pickleball game or your approach that you needed to almost unlearn and completely kind of remove from the equation for yourself?
For sure. Like if you take pickleball and in the back half of the court, your footwork patterns are generally the same as tennis, right? The closer you get to that non-volley zone kitchen line, your tennis footwork patterns need to go away and you need to move in a more lateral movement versus crossing over. And that's something that I think all tennis players struggle with. You can always see a tennis player when they cross over their legs on their backhand side. And it's like, okay, that's tennis footwork. And it's a process unlearning it, right? It's definitely unlearning, the big swings. It's a lot of technical stuff that we're unlearning in this new sport. But it's hard because there's so many similarities that you want to hit the ball the same way, but there's no strings. You don't have the length of the court that you normally do. I mean, the pickleball court's only from end to end 44 feet long. So it's not even half a tennis court in length. So you don't have that space, that distance. So yeah, it does take a little adjustment, but I think it's, as we talked about earlier, that your willingness to embrace those differences and really treat it as a new sport allows you to unlearn all your previous sports habits and bring in new sport habits.
Now, you were a 2-time national champion in doubles. In pickleball, you play singles, doubles, mixed doubles. I'm curious about that, right? I mean, playing a partnered sport must be a lot of coordination, communication, teamwork. Talk about that for a minute. Like, what are some of the similarities and the differences between, the tennis doubles and the pickleball doubles and just partnered sport in general? How do you go about communicating with your partner on the court and making sure that the two of you are in sync?
Obviously, there's a lot of game planning prior to every match, but most of it is so long as we're on the same page and my job is to set you up and your job is to set me up or set us both up, then we're always going to play a pattern that's going to put us in that tactical advantage, right? In tennis doubles, it was typically the closer at the net. My doubles partner's job was to make me look good. She did a phenomenal job in that, and I'm forever thankful. In pickleball doubles, however, the rallies are much longer. Tennis, my rallies lasted 3 to 5 balls, if that. In pickleball, they last sometimes in excess of 90 seconds, which is a really long time, and a lot of touches in there. So it's a constant trusting each other and knowing that if the ball, for example, has been pulled really wide cross court on me, my partner's made that shift with me to cover. Now, me hitting the ball really cross court wide back would be the wrong shot to hit because my partner shifted with me and now I've left her line exposed. So that would be a very bad decision-making shot on my part, because I've now exposed my partner, who has to now just move and cover instead of going, well, she's moved with me, let's play the ball in front of me, because now tactically we're triangulating to the person in front versus playing this cat and mouse game all over the place, chasing the ball without a pattern.
Are you spending a lot of time with a doubles partner talking about not only your strengths, but your weaknesses as well? Are you trying to understand both sides of the coin?
Absolutely. For me, it's important to know what my doubles partner can do and more importantly, what they cannot do, and vice versa. Because if I'm setting them up for a particular shot and they don't have that shot in their arsenal, then shame on me for constantly trying to do that. So it goes the same way. It's like I always want to play to my partner's strengths and they always want to play to my strengths. And if we do that effectively, then that's a great recipe for a win. But if I'm playing to her weakness or she's playing to my weakness, then whatever tactical advantage we had in the rally is soon given away the minute that weakness is exposed.
Are you spending, like you talked earlier about game planning and that you spend some time game planning. Is it more important to understand each other or like to understand your opponent when you're playing doubles?
Both, I think. We definitely have to be on the same page movement-wise and what we're doing, but we also need to understand our opponents and see, in doubles, typically you get somebody who's a more alpha player and someone who's a more beta player. And by a beta player, I mean they're the setter-upper, right? Typically in pickleball, the person who's playing on the left side of the court has their forehand in the middle because they're a righty and they're going to be the more alpha. And the person on the right side of the court has their backhand in the middle, so they're the more beta. Mine's a little bit different because I'm a lefty, so I play on the right with my forehand in the middle, and my partner plays on the left with her forehand in the middle. So we have a slight advantage in some cases. But yeah, you're always trying to figure out what is your opponent's weakness, who is the weaker player, who can we mentally also break down quicker. It's like they've made a couple of mistakes. Let's give them that same shot over and over again to see if we can make it a thing. Because you mentally, at a high level, tactically, maybe we're all on the same page and we're equals. But who's got that mental edge? Who's going to be mentally stronger and be able to apply that pressure and squeeze when it's needed and break down your opponent?
Is that mental edge and that toughness, is that something that's always been a part of you?
I think so. I was fortunate or not fortunate. I grew up around a lot of guys. I've got a brother and my cousins. I was not allowed to cry, and you had to toughen up, and I was always one of them. So whether we were playing soccer or basketball, I was always on their team. So I never wanted to let them down. So, when you had to make the shot, you made the shot, and they were counting on you to make the shot. So I think from a young age, mental toughness was something that was ingrained in me, and it's something I rely on now.
You talk about that toughness, but you play the game with so much positive energy. It just looks fun and energetic. And people talk about kind of your comedic presence and just the animation with which you play. You're one of the most animated players in Major League Pickleball. Where does that come from? Where does that fun-loving, positive energy come from for Lee Whitwell?
It's one of those things where if you look at how pickleball has evolved, right? The professional tour sits on top of an amateur tournament, right? So we have fans who are amateur players, recreational players. And for me, it's important for them to know that I recognize that and I want them to be a part of my journey. And so I'm thankful for them. And it's my way of engaging with them and it's my way of saying thank you. But it's also a stress reliever for me because if you can take me out of myself for a moment and I'm laughing, I'm going to play much looser and mentally tougher, even though it doesn't appear that way. But me having those moments with fans in the crowd or my doubles partner, sometimes even my opponent, if they've pulled a crazy shot, I'll go high five them and be like, where'd that come from? But it takes you out of yourself for a minute and then allows you to regroup.
I'm curious, there's a lot there I want to unpack, Lee. You talked about kind of taking the looser you play, the better you play, or the more focus you bring and toughness you bring. How do you find that balance? Is that just something that you've taught yourself over time? Like, how do you do that? How do you figure that out?
I was hoping you had the answer. It's a tightrope. It's a balance act. It's like you don't want to play too loose and make really dumb mistakes or go for really dumb shots, but you don't want to play super tight either because when you're playing tight, nothing is going your way. And I think a lot of it is just, breathing is really important. Exhaling through every shot allows you to relax the body, but it doesn't allow this to switch off. So, your mind is still engaged. And And you're constantly finding that balancing act of what's loose enough and fun enough, but not careless. And sometimes I've gone too far.
How do you know when you've gone too far?
I go for some, ESPN highlight moment that never makes it.
So what are something, you talk about the breathing, what are some other tactical things that somebody listening, regardless of what they do, whether they're playing pickleball, whether they're competing in an Olympic sport, or they're in a boardroom leading a company or a team, what are some little things that they can do to play a little looser, try engaging with a little more free spirit to try and play the Lee Whitwell way?
I would say is doing your homework and putting in the work. The more hours you spend on your craft, if I'm going to deliver a speech, I better know my speech front to back, sides, every which way, so I can deliver it in a very conversational way, not like I'm trying to recall every step, right? So it's a lot of it is doing the work and trusting that you've done the work and understanding that nobody out there except your opponents want you to fail. For the most part, people are rooting for you.
I've talked to so many elite athletes, Lee, who say that game day or competition day is not the easy part, but like almost the fun part, right? That's when you get to, if it's one day a week and you're an NFL football player, that's when you get to put the 6 days of game planning, preparation, film study, practice, weight room into effect. That's when you just get to go be yourself and let it all kind of flow. And I guess what I'm hearing, but you don't just get the right to show up and have it look or seem fun and effortless. You have to put in the work and do the preparation.
Oh, 100%. It's everyone sees me out there having fun, engaging with the crowd and playing loose and playing at a high level. What they don't see is me training and practicing and drilling and sometimes working on new shots or things that aren't working right, and the frustrations and, that side of it. That's the side of me that I never want to be out on public display. So you do the work, but my drilling partners have seen that and they've seen that side of me. And they're like, after 30 minutes, they're like, it's not a good day. And I'm like, oh, it's not. Let's work on something else and move on. But yeah, they don't see, everyone sometimes seems to think that the path to success is this way. They don't see the jumble, the 5 steps backwards in every which way. It's like almost like a ball of wool that's messed up to get to success.
Absolutely, Lee. It's such an important point. So in terms of pickleball, it's by far the fastest growing sport in the United States. The Major League Pickleball expanded from 8 teams to 24 teams, I think, over a very short period of time. Now you've got all these new entrants, right? You have people coming in with new ideas and different abilities and different strengths and different weaknesses and different perspectives on the sport. How do you stay on top for the foreseeable future with all these new entrants getting into the mix? Are you thinking about that? How do you stay one step ahead of everybody?
That is the hard part, right? The sport is changing so fast. I always say that when you're in pickleball, it's like dog years. It's like 7 years. Like that's how much time, the speed of which things are happening. And the people coming into it, it's so fun. I love showing up to a tournament and looking at the draw and not recognizing half the names. I'm like, who are these people? And now you're playing people you've never seen before who are going to do stuff that may take you by surprise. And you just have to, it's like anybody, right? You do the work and you trust that you've done the work and you trust your own ability and you just sit back, play, have fun, and you win some. But at this point in the game, we're going to lose a lot more because we're at the very inception of it all. It's like pickleball's a 2-year-old right now. It's learning how to walk, crawl, run, and doing all its things. And it's not even I can't wait till it becomes a teenager and see who's in that space then.
Pickleball, the business side of it is like a who's who. Celebrities, executives, everybody, is throwing money into pickleball, buying teams, investing in the sport and the leagues. LeBron James, Naomi Osaka, Heidi Klum. You name it. People are getting involved in pickleball. What do you think is drawing so many people to not only play pickleball, but be a part of the pickleball community and then put their financial resources behind it to help the sport grow?
I think it's definitely a game that's for everybody, right? All abilities. It's a one game that's transcended everything from age, race, religion, political affiliation, blue collar, white collar. You never know who's on the court with you or on the court beside you. And everyone just plays and you're out there just playing and having fun. And it's definitely a sport that Whether you're an A-list celebrity, you can play with your friends, your family. The learning curve is very easy to get in, right? Hard to master, very easy to get in. And they're seeing this explosion that's happening in the US, and now it's happening internationally. So the sport's not going anywhere. It's only getting stronger, and more people are playing. And it's the one sport I think that truly is bringing communities together. It's bringing people back to socializing and having fun. And like I've always said, the hardest thing as adults to do is make friends. And I get to see every day how pickleball allows these friendships to happen in adults all across the world.
You talked about, I think you'd said easy to start, difficult to master, I think was the phrase that you used. For people listening, what's one simple thing that they can do to get started? What's the best way for people to get started with pickleball?
Just go down to your local sports store, get a paddle and some balls, and go down to the park. I promise you, you will find a very welcoming community there that will invite you to play, that will show you the ropes, and will get you started.
Before I let you go, Lee, I'm just so curious. I mean, there's so much division in our society and people who seemingly just can't agree on anything. And what is it about pickleball that drives some of the things that you talked about the last couple of minutes? Like, what makes it so special? What makes it so community oriented, like, almost like a family, it seems?
Yeah, your pickleball courts have become like this extension of someone's backyard. And I think the courts are smaller, and people can go out there and you can talk to your opponents as you're playing, and the games go quickly. So you can jump in, jump off. Like, I could never go down to my tennis club if my plans on a Saturday fell through and go down and be like, hey, can I get next? But I can go down to the pickleball court any day of the week. And they're like, hey, do you want to jump in? And not because I'm a pro, it's because that's how inviting the community is. And they'll do that to anybody and everybody. And if you're terrible at pickleball and you jump into the better group, they'll tell you, listen, this isn't the right group for you. This group over here, well, they come at this time. And it's just very welcoming. And I think we're all learning how to play fair in the sandbox again. And pickleball has become the vehicle to do that.
That is so cool. I think there's so much, obviously, Lee, to learn from your story, but so much to learn from the pickleball community that we can apply to other aspects of life that would make our communities in the world a much better place if we brought some of that positivity and collaboration and the way we go about things on the pickleball court to more things in life. Absolutely.
Steve Kuhn, the founder of MLP, he's like, pickleball brought him so much joy. That's why he founded MLP and all of this. And he goes, if we want more joy in the world, we need to get people playing pickleball. And he's not wrong.
Lee, well, I can tell you one thing. You've inspired me to go down to the store and get myself a pickleball paddle. I was a competitive tennis player many, many years ago. Not as good as you, but I played a lot of tennis in my day. And you've got me convinced now for many, many reasons. I'm going to go get that paddle and teach myself to play pickleball and go down and try and learn from some others who are a little further along.
And I can't wait to come up to your neck of the woods and see how your progress is coming along.
Lee, we'll have to play. All right. Thank you for being a tarp puller. You're pulling the tarp for so many, inspiring people all over the world to get involved in pickleball, in a sport that can literally change communities and change lives. So thank you for all that you do. I've really enjoyed our time together and look forward to just continuing to follow your success and catching up again soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Take care, Lee. Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew H. Moses. That's Andrew H. Moses. And be sure to sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.